sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, let's dive in. We're looking at, this performance from SNL's 50th anniversary special, the one with Sabrina Carpenter and Paul Simon, Homeward Bound.
Yeah, that was a bit of a head scratcher at first, wasn't it?
It was. You've got Carpenter. She's like, 25, super successful pop star.
And Simon.
Yeah, Simon.
The folk rock legend.
Right. It's like, what? How did this even happen?
Totally different generations, totally different genres.
Exactly. Like, I still have Espresso stuck in my head.
Oh, yeah.
Such a good song. And then you have Paul Simon, who,
Right, like, what do they even...
And then it got me thinking, about what each of them brings to the table, Like Carpenter, yeah, she's young, but she's already got this, incredible career going, singer-songwriter, the whole deal.
And it wasn't even her first time on SNL.
Right. She was a musical guest back in May 2024, so she's, familiar with that whole scene.
Totally. So she's comfortable on that stage.
Yeah, exactly. Which makes, her little joke about her parents not even being born when Simon first played Homeward Bound on SNL, even funnier.
Oh, yeah.
Think about that. Simon was on in 1976.
Wow.
And with George Harrison, too.
It's crazy. That's got to be over 50 years of history right there.
It is. And it really, I think, it sets the stage for why this duet really, resonated with people. It wasn't just about the music, you know what I mean? It was about SNL's legacy and all the different generations of artists it's brought together.
Totally. You hit the nail on the head with that one.
So speaking of SNL legends, can we talk about Paul Simon? The man is basically royalty in Studio 8H.
He really is, 4 times as host. Countless musical performances. And he and Lorne Michaels go way back, decades. They're good friends.
That's odd.
They even have a running joke, right, about how Simon offered to host, the very first episode, but Michaels turned him down.
What? Really?
Yeah, so the show could work out the kinks, he said.
Can you imagine Paul Simon hosting that very first kind of crazy SNL?
Yeah, it's wild to think about.
But, okay, speaking of iconic SNL moments.
Oh, yeah.
How can we forget the boxer after 9/11?
Oh, my God. With all the first responders surrounding him on stage.
So powerful.
Absolutely. He's been in the music industry for, 6 decades? And he still connects with audiences in a way that very few artists can. Like this performance with Carpenter, it felt like a homecoming for him,
Yeah.
A chance to share his music with a whole new generation.
Yeah, totally. And what about the music itself? Homeward Bound. It's such a classic. That yearning for home when you're on the road,
But think about Homeward Bound in the context of SNL, right? It's the show itself becomes a kind of home for both of them. Even though their careers, their music, it's so different.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about a literal place, but about that feeling of belonging and returning to something familiar. And for both of them, that's SNL.
Exactly.
Huh. And that feeling of home, I think that's a big part of why the whole SNL 50th anniversary special was such a big deal.
Oh, sure.
It was, the lineup was insane. Steve Martin, Tom Hanks, Scarlett Johansson. It was like a who's who of comedy.
It was, yeah. A real celebration of the show's history and its impact.
For sure.
And beyond the, just the star power, there was this real sense of nostalgia in the air. Everyone was, taking a trip down memory lane, remembering their favorite SNL moments.
I know what you mean. And in the middle of all of that, you have this really stripped down acoustic version of Homeward Bound with Simon and Carpenter. Not a flashy performance or anything, but it just, it resonated.
Totally. Because at its core, it was about connection, right? A connection between these two artists, a connection between generations, and even a connection to the legacy of SNL itself.
Yeah, okay, this is where I'm really curious. For Carpenter, she wasn't even alive for a lot of SNL's history. So what do you think drew her to this collaboration? She even incorporated a skit from the show into her recent tour, the one with Marcelo Hernandez's character, Domingo?
Yeah, that's a great question. It makes this whole pairing even more fascinating, doesn't it? We have to think about how SNL's influence, it extends across generations. What is it about the show that resonates with someone like Carpenter? What makes it cool to reference in her own work,
There's almost a cultural currency to being associated with SNL, even for younger artists.
Right. And that's something we should definitely explore, because this performance, it's not just about two musicians. It's like a window into how comedy, pop culture, it all evolves, and how SNL has managed to, I don't know, stay relevant for 5 decades.
50 years. It's wild, right?
It really is. It's got to be something about, the way they adapt, change with the times. Comedy changes, right? Technology changes. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Like, how does SNL keep finding ways to stay fresh, relevant?
And it's not even just relevant, it's like influential. Think about all the, I don't know, the catchphrases, the characters, the sketches, stuff that just becomes like part of how we talk,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it taps into the cultural, what's it called?
Zeitgeist.
Yes, zeitgeist. Like they capture what people are thinking and feeling right at that moment.
And they do it in a way that's funny, but it also like makes you think. Like you laugh, but then later you're like, wait, were you making a point about, I don't know, politics or something?
That's satire for you, right? It sneaks up on you.
For sure. And SNL has never been afraid to get a little controversial. Some of the most iconic moments, they're the ones that like pushed the boundaries, started debates.
Which kind of brings us back to, Carpenter's decision to use that SNL skit in her tour. Shows you how, like, SNL's influence, it goes way beyond just comedy. I mean, it's in music, it's in fashion, it's even in how we talk about, I don't know, current events.
Like, knowing an SNL reference, it's almost like like a secret handshake. You're in the club if you get it.
Totally. And for someone like Carpenter, who's, she's building her career in a totally different media landscape than Simon did, that connection, it's valuable. It's a way to tap into, I don't know, a shared history, to show that she's part of this bigger, cultural conversation.
It makes you wonder, like, what is it about SNL that keeps it going? Like, think about how much comedy has changed in the last 50 years. Like, how do they...
I think it's a few things. First, they're willing to take risks, right? They're not afraid to try new things, push the envelope a little bit.
That's true. And sometimes those risks, they pay off big time, right? They create these moments that people are still talking about, like, years later.
And sometimes they flock. But even the flocks, I think they're part of SNL. It's that willingness to experiment, to fail sometimes, that keeps it feeling like alive, unpredictable.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they also, they always seem to attract the best talent, right? Like the writers, the musical guests, the cast.
Oh, absolutely. From top to bottom, like there's always this feeling that SNL is where the best of the best, come to play.
And because of that, it's like a launching pad. Like so many amazing careers started on SNL.
Think about it.
It's crazy.
You can't even picture the comedy world without SNL, right? It's been this incredible incubator for talent.
Yeah, constantly bring in new voices, new perspectives.
And it's not just about the individuals. There's something about like the format itself that just works.
You mean the live aspect, the sketches, the musical performances.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's just this fast-paced, crazy energy. You never know what's going to happen next.
Keeps you on your toes.
Totally. And you get that energy because it's live, right? It's not something you get with a pre-recorded show.
And let's not forget the musical performances. I mean, SNL has given us some truly iconic moments over the years.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Rock legends, pop stars, new artists just starting out. It's like SNL has always been a place for musical talent of all kinds.
And it often leads to these collaborations, like Simon and Carpenter. It reminds you that music, it can bridge those gaps. Like it's similar to comedy in that way.
Yeah, it brings people together.
It does, but even with all its, success and influence, SNL has had its critics, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Too edgy, too safe, too liberal, too conservative. It seems like everyone's got an opinion.
And that's probably a good sign, right?
It is. It means the show's still relevant. It's still starting conversations, making people think.
Like it reminds you that comedy's subjective, right? What one person finds funny, another person might be offended by.
Exactly. And SNL has always, walked that line, pushing boundaries, but also trying to stay true to, to what it is at its core.
Yeah. Which is probably why it's lasted so long. It's always evolving, right? Reflecting the culture as it changes, but it keeps that kind of irreverent, satirical core.
It's really a testament to the power of, live performance, the appeal of sketch comedy, and their ability to adapt and reinvent themselves decade after decade.
And in a media landscape that's like increasingly fragmented, right? It's like SNL gives us this shared experience, something that people can talk about, connect over.
Totally. It's become an institution, a touchstone for generations of viewers.
It really has. So as we move into the final part of this deep dive, let's think about this. What is this performance? What does it say about collaboration, especially across generations?
That's a good one. Because on the surface, right, you have these two artists. They seem so different. But when they come together on stage, something special happens, right?
Like a magic.
Yeah, like a magic.
And that magic, it speaks to the power of music to transcend those differences. Simon and Carpenter might be from different worlds, but they find this common ground through their love of music. I gotta admit, when I first heard about this whole Carpenter-Simon thing, I was like, okay, this is a publicity stunt, right? Like, get the young pop star, get the folk legend, put them together, everyone freaks out.
I get it. But on paper, it does seem a little,
Yeah, exactly. But then I actually, watched the performance, and man, I was wrong. Like, it wasn't about the hype. It was about the music.
Yeah, the emotion, you could feel it. It was genuine. They weren't, faking it.
Totally. And you could see it, on their faces, in their voices. Simon especially. He was just, lost in it. Really present.
It's kind of incredible, right? When you think about it. This guy's been performing for, ever. He's seen it all, done it all. And he's still, so connected to the music, so into sharing it with a new generation.
And Carpenter, she wasn't just there to fangirl or whatever. She had her own energy, her own way of interpreting the song. It felt like a true back and forth,
A conversation?
Yeah, a conversation between two artists from different generations.
And that conversation, it went beyond the words of the song. It was about what it means to be a musician. The highs and lows, the connection you get through music across time even.
There's this one moment right after the second chorus where they lock eyes for a second. And in that moment, it's you can see the years just melt away. They're just two musicians sharing their love of music with each other and with everyone watching.
And that's what makes it so powerful. It's that reminder that music at its heart, it's human, it's emotion, it's connection, it's being vulnerable. And when it's done right, it cuts through all the noise, the hype, and it leaves you with something real.
Something real? Yeah, I like that. It wasn't flashy or overproduced. It was just them, two guitars, and a song that still means something all these years later.
And in a world that's obsessed with, what's new, what's next, it's refreshing to see that simplicity. Reminds you that sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones that strip everything back and just give you that raw emotion.
Yeah, and maybe that's the takeaway from all of this. Next time you hear a song that really gets to you, take a second and really listen. Pay attention to the emotion, the vulnerability, the connection. Because in those moments, we're reminded of what it means to be human.
And that's worth celebrating?
It is. So to our listener out there, do yourself a favor and check out this performance. It's a good reminder that even in the middle of this huge anniversary, a quiet moment of connection can steal the show.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
21.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I